Our colleague Ibrahima is currently at the GCI headquarters in Bejilo for updates from the press conference. Well, once again, thank you very much, Ibrahima, for of course, for having you on the line. Now, what's the significance of today's press conference or press meeting by the Chamber of Commerce?
Thank you, Amadou. Today's press conference is coming barely 24 hours after the Gambia Chamber of Commerce confirmed arrival to its initial target of $20 million through a telethon that it held for the sake of COVID-19. And this was during the handing over of check worth of $2 million from the TAF construction company in the Gambia to the Gcci, to renovate one of the treatment centers within the Greater Banjul area. So the press conference is going to highlight likely on the role of the Gcci on this trying moment in the country. We know the Chamber of Commerce is responsible for business promotion and then defending the rights of businesses in the Gambia, both nationally and internationally. That is the role. So as a result of this trying time, the Chamber of Commerce wasted no time to ask the private sector now to plow back some of its income to help out the country, when 10 cases of the COVID-19 are being counted in the Gambia, at least 7 active cases right now undergoing treatment.
All right. Now, how much do we know of the areas of support by the GCI on the fight against coronavirus?
From what the GCI has collected so far from its partners and then members within the country and outside, the GCCI, has also dispensed some of it. A few weeks ago, we were at the National Sanatorium, the sanatorium where, the treatment, where is the main treatment center for the COVID-19. So this institution, refurbished the place to make it more prepared for hosting of cases, and the treatment facilities are being updated thanks to the GCCI, in fundraising campaign. Away from that, also, the Gambia Prison Service were provided with a minibus that will help the staff of the prison department to be going and coming with respect to the social distancing. That was done in collaboration with the UNDP through the GCCI. The GCCI has a lot more, because after confirming that, the target is being reached, that is $20 million, which they call for the business industries to come on their side. So now it is now the turn of the Chamber of Commerce to continue spending this on priority areas. We know that the government keep calling on the private sector to come in, and then the GCI is taking its role now to facilitate and coordinate all donation that should go in the drive towards the fight of COVID-19 in the Gambia.
All right. Now, talking about today's meeting with the press, who among the GCI management would we have for further insight of today's press conference?
Yeah, just a bit on the press conference, we also were reliably informed that the GCCI is also preparing an isolation ground which will be hosting temporary structures that could take up to or accommodate up to hundreds or thousands of people should the need arise. So we know this is also coming at a time when the government of the Gambia is spending so much on accommodation in hotels. So the GCCI is bringing alternative measures to have temporal quarantine centers, isolation centers built in the platform of the GCCI. So for this, might likely to constitute, greater discussion of today's press conference. But before that, we are lucky to have, the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the GCCI, who is Aliu Seka, to help in the digestion of this information. Seka, welcome.
Thank you.
So what's up about today's press conference today?
Well, there are a number of items that we want to discuss. Firstly, you will recall over the last 3 to 4 weeks, the Gambia Chamber of Commerce had raised some monies towards supporting government. So we want to update the media and the public, of course, of the funds raised and so far what we've done. Secondly, we also want to update as to what the new plans are going forward. But thirdly, we want to also inform the public. You will recall that the trade fair Gambia International was rescheduled from March this year until further notice. So we've decided to invest funds on our trade fair grounds. And I heard you briefly touch on the preparation of that grounds, which could possibly also be used when we install the tents there to accommodate any isolation cases.
So you mentioned that already you've reached your $20 million target. So now it is a matter of expenditure throughout, right?
Well, yes and no. We believe there are still many priorities and many items that need to be supported. But the initial budget or target was $20 million as set by the GCCI and President Idi. So we're pleased to say that with the $15 million is pledged so far and $14 million collected, plus the $2 million that TAF Global has now allocated to Ndemban Clinic, plus the bus that has been donated by the UNDP will now amount to about $20 million. But there are many more items, I'm sure, that we can also spend. You will also know that our health facilities are not in the best of shape. There have been recent reports of the terrible state of the toilets and the facilities at the hospitals. I think these are all areas that perhaps COVID-19, whilst we on it, can also help address.
We've seen many other organizations until now, are donating directly to the government of various recipients. So what does this tell about the coordination at the GCCI? Are all the private sector on board?
Well, we're very pleased to know that many others are also donating. Our preference would have been that everybody to come through the GCCI, because we insist that on our own fundraising that every butut will be accounted for, either received or expensed. So that's something that we can vouch for funds that come to the GCCI. Unfortunately, as you would also agree, what funds that don't come to us, we cannot account for. So that's one part. But the other part is that since the Gambia Chamber of Commerce represents all businesses, it would have been ideal also for these businesses to come through the chamber so that we can have a holistic presentation.
You mentioned that you're giving assurance to those donating that their money will be used for the right purpose. So what assurance or in terms of auditing mechanisms are in place to convince people to put their money on GCCI accounts?
Well, firstly, we are publishing this on the social media. If you go to the Gambia Chamber of Commerce website, you will see that we've published every donor who's put in either $1 or $2 million in the coffers. So that's the accounting part with receipts. Similarly, with the expenditure, so far, almost the $2 million that we've spent has been on the sanatorium. Again, it's itemized from one butut to, again, the total amount that has been expensed. The other 2 or 3 priority areas that have been identified, which we will now be presenting perhaps today and the next few days, will also be equally listed. So rest assured, every dime that comes through the GCCI is being accounted for and will be fully published. I can also confirm that all the requests of the payments that we've made so far are the ones coming through the Ministry of Health. So we've set up a task force chaired by our own board director, Mr. Bajara Jabi, who's doing a fantastic job, ensuring that we get the most competitive prices, negotiating with suppliers and service providers directly, and as well as the GCCI only now. That's the only time I can guarantee you that I pay when I get an instruction from this committee, paid directly to the supplier. So we are totally at ease that the GCCI will live up to its expectation. We are representatives of the private sector. We lead by example.
How are businesses also faring right now? We know that there is a lockdown and, businesses, people are complaining, but what is the role of GCCI, or what is your assessment about the level of the situation we are in?
It's a very difficult situation. We are presently conducting an economic and social impact assessment. We are already aware of the very dire situation. If you look around and you see almost all the businesses shut down, that clearly indicates that there is no income coming in, or those few that are opening are operating at some minimum level. We are also aware that staff have to be paid. Salaries cannot just be stopped from one day to the other. There's also the livelihood aspect for those that live on a day-to-day basis on income and businesses that they do. The fact is, the Gambian economy is predominantly dominated by the micro, small, and medium enterprises that actually earn their living on a day-to-day basis. So these are very hardly hit at the moment. But then also there's the issue of how we can just ensure that going forward after COVID-19, these businesses can still stay and actually continue employment and contribute to national development. So what we've done is we've approached the Ministry of Finance and talking also to the Ministry of Trade to see how they can directly, perhaps, should we say, support these businesses. Firstly, is to see if they can get the central bank to guarantee and provide access to foreign exchange so that creditors can be guaranteed payment or can be paid already so that their credit worthiness is not affected. Secondly, is also to see how we can perhaps work with the commercial banks to either to suspend or to reduce the interest rates on all the commercial rates of the loans that they have contracted out with our businesses. These are difficult times. If revenues are not coming in, these businesses will not be able to pay these loans.
I have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so Amadou, that is clearly the situation right now. We know even the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs in the Gambia promised that some, relief mechanisms are on the pipeline from the government. But the call continues to be the same. Either of the methods are not yet applied. No relief is coming from the government. But the GCCI also amplifies the call for government and everyone to understand the situation of business community right now. Those at home are not able to do anything for now. How will they continue to survive? How will these businesses keep moving on in this hard time of lockdown?
Yeah, a good one there. And of course, thank you very much. We hope to get more details and, of course, information from the press conference later on. But for now, thank you very much for your time again, Ibrahim Press Bar.
You're welcome.
Thank you. He's our senior editor and correspondent.